If you suffer from headaches, you cannot forget these 2 points for lymphatic drainage. It's going to make a world of difference. Stay to the end because I'm also going to show you an acupressure point that helps a ton. Now, you might be thinking, what in the world does drainage have to do with headaches? Well, think about it. Every tissue, cell, gland, organ in our body needs circulation to bring all the nutrients and oxygen to function. But when we're functioning, we're also creating waste products. And the waste products are removed by our lymphatic system. So one thing that can happen is if our lymphatics in our head, our brain specifically, are not draining properly, we end up having an accumulation of waste. And that accumulation of waste, if it sits there long enough, is going to drive inflammation. And inflammation absolutely can be contributing to headaches. I know that was part of my issue. That was part of my problem because at the age of 10, I was diagnosed with chronic daily headache syndrome. Guess what? There's no such actual diagnosis back then. They just didn't know what to tell my parents. And they honestly thought that I was like looking for attention, which P.S. oldest of 4 was not looking for any additional attention. Believe you me. But what I found is when I actually started getting my lymphatic system to drain, the headaches got so much better, along with I had to do dietary changes, but we'll save that for another video. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to do the first 4 nodes in the total 12, and then I'm gonna show you another drainage technique to get the pressure from our head, especially if you're having a tension headache or a migraine. So let's start with the termini. Now, if you don't know how to open up these 4 nodes, make sure you go and watch some of my other videos as I have broken them down and explained them in great detail. But you're gonna ultimately spend anywhere between 10 and 50, so 50 seconds on this area. Now, why? We have to make sure that this area is draining and clearing properly. And if you guys want to get the most out of my videos, do this along with me while I'm talking and giving you the information to make you understand why it's important to do it. What we're going to do next is move on to the tonsillar. So the termini is where all of our lymphatic fluid drains, even the fluid from our toes. And the lymphatic fluid at our termini is supposed to have the lowest pressure. Now, why that's important is because fluid is going to flow from high pressure to low pressure. So if our termini, if above our collarbones is congested, it's no longer going to be low pressure, which means fluid's not going to drain. It's not going to move. So we can end up with an accumulation, which can be happening, especially if we have headaches. So we got to make sure that this returns to a low pressure, and then the tonsillar returns to the low pressure. And then we're going to do the pre and post auricular. All of these need to be done in this order, and all of them are going to be 10 to 50 seconds, depending upon the amount of congestion. And usually what people tell me is when we get to this one, they're like, oh, I can actually start to feel things lessening or soothing. Things aren't quite as intense. So stay here as long as you need in order to get this moving and clearing. Now, this next point is usually the moneymaker for a lot of people. It is my favorite lymph node, and a lot of it has to do with having tight muscles around that area because of poor posture. So the next one is the suboccipital. So I'm going to turn to the side and I'll turn around, but we're going to put our hands at the base of our skull. And we're going to gently tilt our head up while pulling our fingers down. Now this one is usually the one that people will sit here for a minute, just relaxing into those muscles and getting those muscles to relax into your fingers. Now you're not pushing super hard, but if you feel that your muscles are really tight, you're like, oh my gosh, this feels so good, feel free to push back into your fingers. Know that that's gonna be addressing more of the musculature versus the drainage component. For the lymphatic drainage component, it's gonna be a lot more gentle than pushing in and really like almost breaking up or stretching, like deep stretching those muscles. Now this, like I said, is usually when people start to feel really, really good. And a lot of people will do this one for 50 seconds and maybe they'll spend 10 to 15 seconds on the other 3. Not to say that the other 3 aren't as important, because they're very important. If you have congestion in one of the lower areas, you're not going to get proper drainage. Okay, so after you do that a few times, what you're then going to do is we're going to go above our eyebrows and we're going to come down to in front of our ear. And the reason this is because this is where all of this fluid drains. All of the fluid from our skull drains right in front of our ear to the preauricular nodes. Now this is very gentle. You can go using the side of your fingers, but you're pulling it down. Now, if you're not noticing a massive difference with that, I'm going to show you one more acupressure point. And this, after you do the drainage, really helps. The drainage has to be done first in order to get maximum benefit from this acupressure point. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our index fingers. You're going to rub your fingers along your eyebrow, okay? Like the bony part of our eyebrow. So just above where our eyes are. And starting right at the bridge of your nose, you're going to push up and you're going to stop when you feel a little indent. So that little indent is right here on me. So it's really close to the bridge of my nose. I like to have the pads of my fingers pushing in. And what I'm gonna do is you're going to push up into those indents. Now, this is going to be very tender. Heck, it's a little tender when you don't have a headache. So only put as much pressure as you can handle. But what you're gonna do is you're going to put a little bit of pressure, and I like to rest my elbows on a table when I do this because then I can control the amount of pressure a little more easily. I always close my eyes when doing this. And then one added benefit is you're gonna take your fingers and vibrate. That vibration is gonna help get everything else moving. And this feels so dang good. What do you guys think? Have you been doing this along with me? After you've done that, give yourself a quick break. You can always come back and redo any of the drainage or redo that acupressure point. One other thing that has been excessively helpful is the use of peppermint oil. I'll put pure peppermint oil on the bottom of my feet. My favorite brand is Restore Hope oils. Reason being, it's not an MLM. You don't have to pay for a subscription, anything like that. You can just purchase the oils you like. And they're one of the cleanest oils that I found out there. So I will use peppermint oil. I will put it with a carrier oil on the bottom of my feet, or I will also put it on my temples to help, like that tingling helps ease some of the constriction. Now, if you're having a migraine, one thing that you can try is go stick your feet in hot water. So go to your bathtub or get a big bin and put hot water in it and keep your feet in there for 10 minutes. Causing vasodilation of your feet is gonna help pull some of the blood flow down, and it can honestly stop a migraine in its tracks. So give that a shot. And then if that doesn't work, one last thing, get an ice bowl, or an ice bucket. And you want it real cold. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hands in that ice bucket and you're going to make a fist and then open your hands and make a fist. And this is in the ice bucket and open your hands. So you're gonna do this for as long as you can tolerate. Ideally, we want to do it for 3 minutes, but if you have to take your hands out for a second, let the burning subside and then put it back in and do it, that can also really help stop a headache in its tracks, especially if it's been a headache that's been going on for a couple days. Now, always check your hydration level. Drinking a nice glass of water with a pinch of salt is always a good idea too, because a lot of times headaches are an electrolyte imbalance, and a lot of drainage congestion is due to dehydration. So making sure that you're staying hydrated and adding that salt for the electrolytes is going to be super beneficial. I hope this helps, and let me know below, what did you notice when you did it? Thanks for being here, and happy draining.